seconds to go. We need a Minneapolis miracle. Case on a deep drop, steps up in the pocket. He'll fire to the right side. Off by Diggs. Stay up. Oh my God! 30, 10, touchdown! Are you kidding me? Miracle finish! It's a Minneapolis miracle! Oh my God! No way! Ah! What a miracle finish!
Whoa! Hey, Jack Day on my side. Aj Mansour. This is the State of Purple podcast. Holy smokes. The Minnesota Vikings pulled off another victory. They took it to the wire like they always do, 34-31 over the Green Bay Packers in the border battle. Jack, it got super dramatic at the end, super worried, and everyone here at US Bank Stadium thought the worst, because that's what we do when we're Vikings fans. What did you think when you were watching at home, man?
Yeah, I was shaking just like the rest of you guys. I was watching at my dad's house in the basement, and I was nervous. I think I disagreed with I don't want to say disagreed, because the Vikings played very aggressive today. We saw that carry over from the Chargers game into this game, and when they needed to be conservative, I think the Vikings did the right thing at the end of that game, playing for a field goal rather than going to a touchdown. We've pushed for that all season long. But when you're playing against a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, it just felt like if it was 20 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, it didn't matter, especially after watching the previous drive where he found Valdez-Scantling for that touchdown. Aaron Rodgers is still playing at an extremely high level. So I like the call to go for a field goal there. As stressful as that was, it did work out in the Vikings' favor, which doesn't always feel like that's going to be the case. But at the end of the day, it happened, and it worked out in the Vikings' favor, and they're back to a 500 football team.
Yeah, I mean, this game was freaking nuts, Jack. And, I'm taking some heat on Twitter right now, which I don't care. Who cares? Because I criticized that. I said, oh, my gosh, we're going for the field goal. And the only reason I complained about that or even said that is because we're Vikings fans. We know how that usually goes. We've been there too many times to just assume that it's going to be a good field goal. This is not Steven Gostkowski. This is not Adam Vinatieri. This is a Minnesota Vikings kicker. So that's why everyone here was biting their nails. Everyone was freaking out at home, and maybe we wanted them to go for that touchdown at the end, but it might have been the smarter play to reserve the time, waste the timeouts, run the clock down, and go for the walk-off or overtime, right? You're not losing the game. You're either going overtime or you're walking off with the win there. So they did it well. The game, Jack, was freaking insane. I mean, the Vikings get off to a lead. They extend that lead. The Packers storm back. We all knew it was going to happen eventually. That's what happens to the Vikings every time, especially when you're playing Aaron Rodgers. Ultimately, though, what were you thinking when Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Aaron Rodgers connected after the Vikings seemingly took all the momentum? The building was going nuts. They go for two. They get the 2-point conversion. Dalvin Cook walks in, and they go for two. They go up by a full touchdown, and then the very next play, 75 yards. Aaron Rodgers, MVS. Everyone here was losing their mind. I mean, it felt like a Minneapolis Miracle scenario was shaping up again, where it was slipping out of our hands at the end.
Yeah, you kind of feel the life get sucked out of the stadium, and I think that's warranted. But at the end of the day, I think this game and the game in Los Angeles, it really proves something that we've preached on this show. The identity of this football team, it's no longer the defense. The identity of this football team is Kirk Cousins throwing the ball downfield to Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, letting Dalvin Cook. I mean, it didn't feel like he had a great day. I'm looking at the stat sheet right now. It kind of surprises me a little bit that he had 22 carries. It didn't fully feel like that. But 22 carries for 86 yards, it really kind of set up a balanced offense that we've kind of been preaching for. And my, oh my, did that set up a very entertaining day for Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. Kirk Cousins was slinging it, and like I said earlier in the show already, it feels like this team, after that Chargers game, I'm not ready to say, hey, this is a guaranteed playoff team that can make a run in the playoffs, but they're starting to realize themselves what their identity is. Kubiak quietly has strung together a couple nice games back-to-back now, and Kirk Cousins is playing more aggressive. Yes, that could have killed the Vikings there. He had that almost interception got dropped. That could have really put a dagger into this game. But at the end of the day, I think that's something that Vikings fans, you and I, have been kind of calling for, is more aggression from the Vikings quarterback. We saw that aggression come out today. It really sparked Justin Jefferson, 169 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kirk Cousins, 341 yards and 3 touchdowns. He manned up. He played like he knew he was playing against the first ballot Hall of Famer and Aaron Rodgers, and he played admirably in a very exciting duel between two divisional rivals.
I'm reading off a John Krasinski from The Athletic tweet, and I'm going to add something to the end. Everything came up to Minnesota Vikings today for the most part. There was a muff punt that bounced right into Westbrook's hands earlier in the game. The doinked field goal by Mason Crosby, roughing the passer on that interception early, and then you have that overturned call at the end with the interception. It was an interception, but he came down hard, landed on the ball got knocked loose. This is weird, right? I mean, the Minnesota Vikings don't get those breaks. Today they got them. They took advantage of them. They didn't waste them. Jack, this is now, I guess I don't know exactly how the tiebreakers work out, but I know going into this game, the Vikings were 1 game out of the playoffs, right? That was the kind of weird stat that they were talking about, the expanded playoffs, opportunity to still compete. We were talking whether we wanted them to make the playoffs or not. They're really in the mix of this. When you go and beat a team like the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers, despite some injuries that they did have, Davante Adams had a great game. Aaron Rodgers nearly had a perfect game. I'm going to pull up the stats real quick. 148.4 passer rating, 23 of 33, 385 and 4 touchdowns. But you counteract all of that, right? You have Kirk Cousins going 24 for 35, 341 with 3 touchdowns, a 128.4. Dalvin Cook, 22 carries, like you mentioned, 86 yards, but a big touchdown, that big 2-point conversion at the end. And then Justin freaking Jefferson. He's a top 5 wide receiver in this league, Jack. There's no arguing that. 8 receptions, 169 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was huge today.
Yeah, it was another day where I think there's a lot more mutual respect. I know Justin Jefferson kind of tweeted out after the whole incident where he flipped the ball to Keenan Allen last Sunday. There's mutual respect there. But it's starting to seem like the direction of this league, there's 2 wide receivers it's seemingly, especially in 2021. We saw it a little bit in 2020 when Jefferson broke out. But there's 2 wide receivers, in my opinion, that are, I don't want to say 1A, 1B, because I think Davante Adams still holds that 1 spot. I think Justin Jefferson is very, I don't even want to say quietly anymore because he has exploded onto the scene the last 2 weeks. But Justin Jefferson slided in there. I've been saying he's a top 5 wide receiver. I think he's going to start sliding. The more performances he has like this, he's going to slide up there. And I know I am the first person that will give credit to Justin Jefferson. Had a phenomenal day. But without Kirk Cousins slinging the rock the way he did, we might not see a day for Justin Jefferson having 169 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kirk Cousins has played very, very good football for 2 consecutive weeks, playing more aggressive than we've seen in weeks past. That's something that we've called for over and over and over again for this team. Be more aggressive. Let the game come to Kirk Cousins and let the pressure fall on his shoulders because he's playing good enough. This was yet again another drive within 2 minutes where Kirk Cousins leads a game-winning drive right down the field, works out in the Vikings' favor with a missed field goal this time. Kirk Cousins played phenomenal today, and those wide receivers, Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, Tyler Conklin had a couple nice catches. I don't think KJ Osborne had much. I think he had 1 catch, but it was a big catch for a first down. So it was fun seeing everyone get involved and seeing Justin Jefferson just kind of stack it up on the stat sheet when he's going up against one of his good buddies in Davante Adams, who is arguably the best wide receiver in football.
I apologize for some of the audio issues. I'm still at the stadium right now. You got Mike Zimmer talking downstairs presently. He's on the overhead. The fans are still screaming. Everybody's still jacked. The Vikings walk off with a 34-31 victory. You can see the comments I pulled up on the screen here, everybody who's watching on the live stream. According to Irv, which I love you, Irv, I'm going to trust you, and we're going to go with it. With the Carolina Panthers and New Orleans Saints losing today, the Minnesota Vikings are not only in the playoffs right now, but they're the 6th seed in the playoffs. Hashtag Skol. Thank you for that one, Irv. Jack, I don't want to get out of here without being a little negative. Xavier Woods, man, Aaron Rodgers has a tendency to find the weak link, and pick on them. I think that was a little bit the case here, but you don't necessarily do that when you get the ball ahead of the wide receiver, and then they make a move and juke Xavier Woods out of his jock about 4 or 5 times. That last touchdown was a Xavier Woods situation. I'm assuming, when it continues to happen to the same person over and over and over, it's not somebody else's responsibility. There's a liability on that back end with Xavier Woods right now, man.
Yeah, and Xavier Woods, I think he's had a phenomenal season up to this point, but if you're the Vikings coaching staff and you start seeing games kind of string together where Xavier Woods is struggling 1 week, it turns into 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 3, 4 weeks down the road, and he's still struggling, I can kind of negate the negativity with some positivity and say the Vikings started this game with a 3-safety look with Cameron Bynum. They're starting to trust Cameron Bynum. I mean, that's a huge task right there. We've kind of both given a ton of credit to Cameron Bynum. He's played fantastic, been the highest graded Vikings defensive player in consecutive weeks up until this game. And that's just showing the confidence that this coaching staff is starting to get in that rookie. We had that conversation at the beginning of the season through the first couple games. Hey, none of the rookies are starting to make an impact at all. Patrick Jones is kind of being forced into more. He's not in a huge role right today. I think Sheldon Richardson, it was kind of fun seeing Sheldon Richardson get involved playing some defensive end. That was something we brought up when he came here and said, hey, when he was with Cleveland, he was able to play outside a little bit. That was beneficial. But Patrick Jones is starting to see the field a little bit more. And Cameron Bynum, it just shows the amount of trust that the coaching staff, like I said, is starting to have in him. When, yes, it was cool. He had a good week against Lamar Jackson, a former MVP. He had a nice sack against Justin Herbert, a potential future MVP. But going up against Aaron Rodgers, that's a whole different ballgame, and kind of putting that trust on him. If Xavier Woods continues to struggle, that situation is going to certainly be something worth monitoring. And I kind of wanted to go back before I throw it back to you on that last comment about that. During the broadcast, they actually had some sort of percentages up that they talked about, and it was like, if the Vikings were to lose this game, I think their chances at the playoffs was around like 29%. With the win, it went up to like 55%. So that just shows, as cliche as it is, saying that this might have been a must-win game for the Vikings, this was as close as it can get to a must-win game, and they prevailed against a tough divisional opponent. And I think the back-to-back wins against the Chargers and the Packers, I think, could spring something special. Like I said, don't necessarily want to get my hopes up and start dreaming about an actual championship. I got this sweatshirt out for a reason after this, because I am starting to get some optimism building back up. Not quite there, but at the end of the day, it's a good win against a divisional rival. I'm actually sitting in Wisconsin. That's where my dad sits, or where my dad lives. He already has done his lap and is side-by-side with the Vikings going around the neighborhood, so he took care of that. But it feels good. I think at the end of the day, the Vikings, it's such a fun rivalry. It's such a fun border battle. And whenever they can get a huge win, especially when the Vikings were 8-2 and the Vikings desperately needed this win, it just makes it even more entertaining for Vikings fans.
So here's where we are, Jack. When you have an offense like this, you can beat any team, right? I mean, you go out and you can compete with Aaron Rodgers. You can go toe-to-toe with a high-scoring offense like the Packers. You can beat any team. This defense does need to play better. I hate to do this, and everybody who's out there, get all your superstitious stuff, throw the salt over your shoulder, do whatever you need to do, because I'm going to go through the Vikings' next 4 games, right? They have 2 wins in a row, big wins against good teams. Their next 4 games are up against the San Francisco 49ers on the road. 49ers aren't a slouch team, but they're not a good team either. The Detroit Lions on the road. That should be a win right there. The Pittsburgh Steelers at home on a Thursday night. That's a very beatable Pittsburgh team. And then you go on the road to Chicago December 20th. You have 4 games in a row right there, Jack, where you should win at least 3 of them, if not all 4 of them, and really solidify yourself for a final stretch to push for the playoffs. This is a team that we wrote off early, Jack. We did it. No one could fault us because the way they were playing, the way they were losing, the things that were happening. They're coming in to roundabout to be good and really get their momentum headed into the right time of season. Now they just have to beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. It's easier said than done with this team.
Yeah, and it's just crazy to even bring that up now. At a potential, you look at the Vikings now, and you look, and like you said, knock on wood, throw the salt over your shoulder, because we don't want to get too far in front of ourselves here. But those are 4 winnable games. If the Vikings can do what they're supposed to do and go out and win those 4 games, we're looking at a 9-5 team that is almost guaranteed to make the playoffs at that point. And just 3 weeks ago, I myself am guilty of this. I know you're guilty of this. We were kind of talking about, hey, maybe it won't be the worst thing if this team ended up losing a few games in a row and they kind of put the season to bed and we got to see some of these rookies and they got a higher draft pick. That just shows how fast things can change in the NFL, and it's changed very drastically with the Vikings stringing together a couple extremely, extremely impressive wins in back-to-back weeks.
So the Minnesota Vikings win 34-31 at home, border battle at U.S. Bank Stadium. They do defeat the Green Bay Packers to go to 5-5. The Packers drop to 8-3 I believe, on the season. 8-3, 7. What's their record?
8-3.
8-3 on the season. I thought so. But the momentum is going the way of the Vikings. So it should be a fun rest of the season. We're going to have a lot to talk about on the State of Purple podcast. So if you haven't already subscribed on iTunes, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your favorite podcast, please do that. And join us every early in the week and then late in the week and then on game days as we go live for an interactive chat like we are right now, where you can be part of it. You can throw the comments in there. Any final comments from the chat, throw them in there now. We'll throw them up on the screen. Again, Minnesota Vikings win. They get to 500. They're in a playoff spot right now, and they have a winnable schedule up ahead of them. Good things ahead for this team, playing well. Just go Vikings. Jack, I appreciate you, my man. Go back and, take a lap. I want to see you take a lap in that side-by-side. Take a video, put it on Twitter. Chris Hockey will see proof that Jack Day does exist, and we'll be set and ready to go. Jack, appreciate you, my man. Go have fun with your family, and we'll talk to you later this week on the State of Purple podcast.
10 seconds to go. We need a Minneapolis miracle. Case on a deep drop. Steps up in the pocket. He'll fire to the right side. Off by Diggs.